Now, my next guest says BP hasn't had an effective plan to communicate with the public about the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and that could end up costing the company dearly. Joining us now, we have Rich Torrenzano. He is the chairman and chief executive of the Torrenzano Group. Torrenzano has advised on a wide variety of issues for clients throughout his career, including Merrill Lynch, Lloyd's of London, and NASDAQ. Rich Torrenzano, good to have you with us on Bloomberg.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
So you've said that BP is still, shooting from the hip, that they're not thinking through their communication? Why is that?
Well, if you look at the situation today, there's two problems going on. First, operationally, they have not had a plan to deal with the situation. And second, from a communications point of view, their communications with a broad variety of constituencies, whether it be government leaders, shareholders, bondholders, the public that has been affected by this, has been abysmal. And it's been abysmal because they're not thinking about it. You have a chairman who comes out of the White House and says, little people. He should have had a prepared statement. You have the CEO making a whole host of comments, including last week, saying 65 times that he couldn't answer a question for Congress. So he's guilty 65 times because, unfortunately, in our environment today, if you refuse to engage in a conversation and explain what's going on, if you say no comment, you're guilty.
So why is it that companies don't seem to have an emergency plan? I mean, they don't seem to have anything to backstop a crisis.
Some companies do, and I think some companies are required to have a plan because of regulatory reasons, like chemical companies or utilities or things like that. Those companies, from a regulatory point of view, have to not only have a plan, but rehearse the plan periodically as required by law. But most companies are very busy today with the financial crisis and with just running their own company. They don't really face the crisis until they have to. And I really think most companies should sit back and say, gee, what are the 2 or 3 or 6 or 10 things that can affect us based on our industry? Because if you run a trucking company or a technology company or a food packaging company, all those industries are going to have different problems. It can face different kinds of crises. So you have to sit back and say, what can affect us? How do we then deal with it? Do we have the operational expertise to deal with that? If we don't, how do we acquire it or get it on call for us if we need it? And then how do we communicate with all the various important publics that we need to when a crisis happens?
I'll give you 30 seconds. Does it really come from the chief executive of the company? Is that where the crisis management really needs to start?
I think it doesn't necessarily start there, but he or she has to be directly involved. I think personally the chief executive probably got a little far out here without having a lot of information, but he is the most important person in the company, and he must indeed be involved.
All right, I want to thank you very much, Rich Torrenzano, coming to us from the Torrenzano Group, an expert in crisis management,
Thank you.
for those
Thank
insights.